Hello, BookTube. We continue with the booksellers, the bankrupt bookseller. And next section is pen picture of a bookseller. It has been said that the true artist is revealed in his art, that the man can be seen in his books. My books are a confused revelation of myself. The lingerie next door veils the character of the dyspeptic draper, and the cheeses and pork pies dissemble the parsimony of the grocer further along the street no more completely. Man is a mystery. It is a staging it is a staggering commonplace of our lives. I draw no word picture of myself. I see myself many uh, many men, depending on the day and the hour of observation. To the public, I am mean looking. My face is not intellectual nor noble. It is common. I look like a number of the lower middle classes, and I am not. God knows that my ancestry was, I know, but it is the boast, it is a boast any of us can make that it includes kings, popes, and priests. I am sure of that. My faith in human nature is not less than my knowledge and understanding of it. Prostitute pimps, decent farmers, day laborers, Roman legionaries, Norse Vikings, fighting men, and cowards of all ages and generations, saints and sinners, a mixed lot, but no better and no worse than the best pedigree that was ever elucidated by the court of heralds or printed in the pages of Burke. These ancestral influences all work on me unrecognized, but potent as I follow my calling as a bookseller. I am happier than most in my ancestry in that I can only imagine and conjecture its composition. I never knew my father. He was a clerk of various sorts and failure all his life. He failed to continue living after 30. My mother died 2 years ago, a curious soul. She gave me everything, but I never understood her. She had no philosophy of life, no theory of existence. Left with me an infant, she apparently narrowed. Uh, left me an infant, she apparently narrowed whatever had been her previous existence down to one purpose and poured her life force along that narrow channel. I believe she was left uh, with a small house in Bristol, and partly by day work and partly by keeping lodgers, she struggled to keep me up and keep herself alive. She had a hard battle, but she won. When she died, she left me nearly £800, and it is that capital that made it possible for me to be a bookseller. She had insured her life within a few years of my father's death, and the payment of the premiums on that was, I see now, the desperate victory she set herself to win year by year. She worked as I have known no creature ever work. Uh, she moved from smaller house to larger house until she had at length 6 lodgers, and single-handed she served these until happily I think she fell down from heart failure one morning as she was about to begin the unending toil of another day. I have often thought that the sacrifice was not worth the end achieved. I am not worthy of anything so highly conceived, so magnificently sustained, yet the effort she made for me filled her life and gave her intense happiness. She was a frugal woman. She never bought a dress that I noticed. Her clothes were always intermediate and characterless. She, in her later years, hardly ever went out. For 2 years before she died, she never crossed the door. She saved and saved and saved, and yet was no miser. She gave to beggars and bought laces and notebooks and studs, which were worthless because she could not refuse a creature her piety. She had come from the country, but her folk had died, gone to America, or dropped her before her marriage. She had nobody but me, and her plan to leave me £500 when she died. She was the finest creature I ever knew or read about or heard about. She was that to me anyway, and I am what I am because she was what she was. So single-minded, so quietly determined, so confident and sure in her purpose. I am not like her in appearance. I am like my father. She had fine eyes and smooth hair and such quietness and firmness in her look. I am of a different cast of face. I get excited about pleasures, cannot conceal displeasure. She was a stoic. Her face masked her attitude toward me. Mine expresses emotions as they can't come and go, and bewilderment mostly. And people would say I have a weak face. I am not a thing of beauty, nor others any more than myself. I console myself with the biographies of ugly men, but it is poor consolation. I think sometimes I will cultivate a great soul, but common sense tells me I have not the materials. I am what I am, and at best make myself content. And he quotes, none answered this, but after silence spake, a vassal of a more ungainly make. They sneer at me for leaning all awry. What did I did what did the hand then of the potter shake? End quote. I don't know, and it is some consolation to know that nobody does. I had a good enough education, but did not make much of it. My mother got me a job as a clerk in her insurance office when I was 14, and there I stayed until the war. I never liked the work, but I could plan no better. I had horizons too remote for realization, and I could not leave my mother. The war came, and I was among the first. They had me over in France early. I was hit in the head after Loos, and it has made me more fanciful than I was, but I am happy with it. My mind to me is my mind to me a kingdom is. I can write and truly. Perhaps many of us would be a better of a knock on the head. I certainly have been improved. I certainly have been improved to my mind. I think now that I don't remember thinking of at all before. Ideas jostle each other in my brain. I have found myself thinking and expressing myself as I could not have done before. The war made me undoubtedly. It deserves that tribute if I am the only one who can make it, for all the misery it has been alleged to have caused. My mother died a year after I came home, and with her money I felt free. I did nothing for over a year. I stayed in different towns and looked up old acquaintance of the wartime. Then I came here by chance and bought this business. I would not have anything I see plainly, but for my mother's insurance policy, her determination to leave me a sum of money, the war, and that smack on the head at Bully Grenay. It is strange how destiny works out and brings this little act before the public. I sit at my table with my paper in front of me and my pencil in my hand. My bookshop fills my glance as I look afterwards. I look leftwards, and lo, I see myself a miracle. Who would have who would have believed it? Had one been told the story, one would have said it was fiction. How romantic it all seems, and how true was the remark of O. Henry's when someone asked him to read some new novel. He replied that everything seemed commonplace compared with the romance of his own life. I feel that too, and that may be the inner secret. God must love God must love those who love their lives. It is his drama, his comedy, his tragedy. As we, as start that again. It is his drama, his comedy, his tragedy we are acting, and the producer cannot but be gladdened when his prayers feel they fill the bill. At bottom, that is the real thing of life. I seem suddenly to see God's purpose with this, to feel we have got the part we want to play. That is the beginning of the happiness the saints and martyrs had in doing God's will. The Lord's Prayer comes back from childhood to me in my bookshop, and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, is seen to be great stage direction from the master producer to those of us who have the wit to see indeed that all the world's a stage. A bookseller's holiday. A day in the country is good for a bookseller, but it is trying to get back to worry and business. I don't mind books, and I can even stand bookselling, but I have never understood bookkeeping. It is a profane name to give a ledger keeping and debtors. It is a profane name to give to ledger keeping and debtors and creditors. It has made my head dizzy, and to give myself relief, I thought of yesterday. My mind turns to the words, and I take this poor piece of verse. I call it trees. Shops and dust and clatter, trams and cars and a crowd, roaring turmoil, clatter, and something else aloud. Something cries aloud. Something just remembered, something that's full of ease. Ease for souls dismembered, a memory of trees. Grim Scotch firs at twilight, and willows by the weir, poplars like some stylite, great oaks and men revere, and the birch and beeches and sweet limes wooed by bees. God, how far their reach is, those memories of trees. And we'll end it there today. Thank you, BookTube.